Let's talk about banks. We all use them, but what do they really do? Are they just big, fancy safes for our cash? Not even close. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and show you how banks are the hidden engine powering our entire economy.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by figuring out what a bank really is. Then we'll follow a simple little story about credit to see how banks can literally create liquidity out of thin air. From there, we'll see how that liquidity gets out there and finances the real economy. And finally, we'll reveal the one secret ingredient that makes the whole thing work: trust.
Okay, so to really get what banks do, we have to get past this image of a giant vault full of money. Let's start with what a bank is at its very core.
Okay, so the textbook term is a financial intermediary. Sounds a little stuffy, right? But the idea is actually pretty simple. A bank issues its own promises to pay. Think about the money in your checking account. That's a liability for the bank. And it uses that to buy other people's promises to pay, like a loan to a business. The bank's profit is just the difference, the spread, between the interest it pays you and the higher interest it charges someone else.
And here's what that looks like in practice. On the left side, you've got the bank's assets. This is the stuff it owns, which is really just a big pile of IOUs from other people. And on the right, you've got its liabilities, the stuff it owes to others. And yep, that includes your deposits. The whole business of banking is just managing these two sides of the sheet.
Okay, theory is one thing, but let's see how this actually plays out in the real world. To do that, we're going to need a little story. Let's imagine a simple economy with just two people, a producer and a distributor.
So, meet our players. We've got a producer who makes 1,000 ounces worth of great stuff, and they want to sell it to a distributor. The only snag? The distributor's a little short on cash right now. But, and this is the key detail, these two go way back. They trust each other completely.
And because that trust is there, they can still make a deal. The producer hands over the goods, and in return, the distributor gives the producer what's called a bill of exchange. It's basically just a formal IOU, a promise to pay the 1,000 ounces later. As far as they're concerned, the deal is done. But this creates a brand new problem.
Right. So that IOU from the distributor is valuable, for sure, but you can't exactly spend it. It's not cash. And this is where the bank steps in to perform a bit of financial magic.
You see, our producer has their own bills to pay. They've got workers and suppliers who need to get paid now. And the producer can't just tear off a piece of the distributor's IOU and hand it to them, right? Why not? Because the workers don't know the distributor from Adam. They don't trust his promise. The producer's asset isn't liquid. It can't be easily spent.
So what does the producer do? They take that bill of exchange straight to Bank Alpha. The bank looks at it, does its analysis, and says, sure, we'll buy this promise from you. And then comes the magic trick. The bank creates a brand new liability on its own books, a 1,000-ounce demand deposit, and sticks it right in the producer's account. And just like that, bam, the producer has 1,000 ounces of spendable money. How? Because everyone trusts the bank.
And this table shows you exactly what just happened. The distributor's promise became Bank Alpha's new asset, and the new deposit for the producer became Bank Alpha's new liability. The bank essentially created money just by transforming a private, illiquid IOU into a public, liquid, and widely trusted bank deposit. It's pretty incredible when you think about it.
But wait, it gets even more interesting. This newly created money doesn't just sit there. It starts to move, kicking off a chain reaction that helps fuel the entire real economy.
Let's follow the money trail. First, our producer decides to invest their new 1,000-ounce deposit into a long-term bond from a different bank. Let's call it Bank Beta. Okay, so what does Bank Beta do? It turns around and uses that new funding to give a mortgage to a family. That family then takes the mortgage and buys a brand new house from a real estate developer. And look where we end up. That original 1,000-ounce deposit is now sitting in the developer's bank account.
And here is the paradox, the really mind-bending part of this whole story. That real estate developer, just by holding that deposit in their account, is now the ultimate person financing the original distributor's IOU. Through this web of banking, a home builder is now funding a goods distributor, and they have absolutely no idea that the other person even exists.
Now, all of this seems pretty complicated, right? It's this complex chain of IOUs and deposits. Which leads us right to the main question. Why do we even need these banks in the middle of everything?
I mean, think about it. Why couldn't our producer, who had extra funds, just lend that money directly to the family that needed a mortgage? Or why couldn't the real estate developer just fund the distributor? Well, the answer comes down to two absolutely crucial functions that banks perform. It all boils down to these two pillars: specialized risk analysis and something we can call social trust.
Let's break that down. For the producer to lend money to that family, they'd have to become an expert in mortgages, credit scores, and property values overnight. Banks have entire teams of people who do nothing but analyze that risk all day, which dramatically lowers the cost and effort for everyone involved. But maybe even more importantly, trust between individuals is limited. You trust your friends, your family. Banks take that trust and make it system-wide, impersonal.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most important piece of this whole puzzle, the one secret ingredient that makes this whole engine run. And that ingredient is trust.
Really, the entire system hangs on this one simple fact. Banks are institutions the society as a whole has decided are trustworthy. Their promises, your bank deposits, are just considered safe and reliable by pretty much everybody, everywhere. And because we don't have to do a deep dive into our bank's financials every time we accept a payment, their liabilities, which are really just numbers in an account, can circulate through the economy as if they were money itself. Trust is the thing that turns a bank's debt into the liquid fuel that our economy runs on.
So, this leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought, doesn't it? If our widespread collective trust is the thing that turns a private institution's debt into the money we all use every single day, what does that really tell us about the true nature of money itself? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us.